So this video is going to be looking at the main events of the Catilinarian conspiracy. So there's a short section of Plutarch, Cicero, and then we have a slightly longer section of Sallust. So this bit of Plutarch is basically going to give you a really broad overview of the key events that happened, and then Sallust will go into a little bit more detail, some of the periphery stuff. So we have Catiline soldiers begin to gather in a place called Etruria. I can never say it properly. I'll say it probably 6 different ways in lesson. Importantly, we have provincial support of the Catiline conspiracy as well. So obviously we talked about his supporters previously. So he's got some senators, he's got lots of plebs, he's got cutthroats, the murderers, the debtors, but he also has provincial support, and that's what makes it particularly dangerous to Rome. So at this time, just before they're about to march on the city, came to Cicero's house about midnight, some most powerful and greatest men in Rome. And most important is Marcus Crassus, our friend Crassus, but also Marcus Marcellus and Metellus Scipius. These are like really old families, the Marcelluses and the Scipios. So they knock on the door, fine, and they have some letters which have been left for them, and they're a bit like, why have I got these letters? So one of them was addressed to Crassus, and Crassus had read his letter. And in the letter it informed him there was much bloodshed by Catiline's orders, and advised him to slip away secretly from the city. Now, there is no evidence that Crassus was any part of the conspiracy. So there's quite a possibility that Crassus got the letter and was just like, what the hell? Why have I got this letter? And that's why he goes to Cicero. According to Sallust, it might be because he's trying to clear himself from suspicion, because he did have a friendship with Catiline. He was one of his patrons. But Crassus was the patron of everybody because he was so wealthy. He even lent Cicero money. So he lent everybody money. But either way, Crassus got the letters and he went straight to Cicero and said, I've been sent this letter. The rest of the means are unopened. Blah, God help us, do something. So Cicero is obviously understandable. So I'm like, what am I going to do? Thinks it overnight, and then he brings the Senate together at dawn. He's allowed to. He's one of the consuls. Brings the letters, hands them to the senators they were addressed to, and makes them read them out loud, which is also going to be quite embarrassing, because then it's basically telling people, one, that they might be slightly involved in the plot, and that there's a plot, which is also very dangerous. So at the same time the letters are read out, we have this guy called Arius, who makes a report that there is soldiers in Etruria. I thought I said it differently. And that's when they sort of think, oh, lordy lord, what are we going to do? This big conspiracy, we're all going to die. So the Senate passes a decree that matters should be put into the hands of the consuls. You should accept the responsibility of arranging at best the security for the city. So basically, this decree, which it says here is only rarely passed by the Senate when great danger is feared, understandably, gives the power to the consuls to raise an army within the city limits. Now, it was illegal to bring an army and things like swords and daggers into the city for obvious reasons, because you can't have armed men running around. So they have to pass this kind of like decree. The decree is not a law; it's like an edict. It's like the Senate says this is going to happen, and this basically gives Cicero and his joint consul the ability to get the forces they need to protect the city. And it will talk a little bit later about what then Cicero does. So we then have a section of a letter from this guy called Manilius, who is one of the supporters. I'm just double checking what I'm reading it through. Yes, it's one of the supporters of Catiline. So he gives some more justification of why the conspiracy happened. So you could again use this for evidence to show causes of the conspiracy. So we've taken arms not against our fatherland, nor to bring danger upon others, but protect ourselves from wrong, i.e. we're trying to protect ourselves from prosecution. We are wretched and destitute. We've got no money. We're really poor. And many have been driven from our country by violence. None of us have been allowed in accordance with the usage of our forefathers to enjoy the protection of the law, so we don't feel like we're being looked after properly. Your forefathers often took pity on the common people of Rome and relieved their distress by decree. So, you've helped previous people in the past, but you're not helping us. So you're forcing us to launch this attack on the city. We ask neither for power nor riches. Not sure that's what Catiline was promising, but hey, but for freedom, which is what he was definitely promising. We implore you in the Senate to rescue your unhappy fellow citizens and restore the legal protection. So basically, stop persecuting us and look after us. And this is your fault because you've not looked after us previously. So the guy who gets this letter, which is Quintus Marcius, says, okay, fine. You can make a request, but you got to request to the Senate, not to me. And in order to make the request to the Senate, they must lay down their arms, come to Rome, and present your petition. And then the Senate would make a decision. Okay, obviously at this point, that's when Catiline then sends the letters to those in the Senate. So those are the letters that Crassus got, that Crassus took to Cicero, that Cicero then puts to be read out in the Senate. Okay, so in the letters he's been beset by false accusations. He resigned himself to fate and was on his way to exile at Marsala, which is basically in France. And then a different letter sent to is read out by Catulus to the Senate. So this is a letter that Catiline had written to Catulus. So many people named the sea. I know, it gets worse. So this kind of gives you then Catiline's version of why he's doing what he is doing. So this is his justification. So, maddened by wrongs and insults, since I have been robbed of my fruits of my toil and energy and unable to maintain a position of honour. In other words, he hasn't been able to be elected consul several times. He's been prosecuted several times, and you have forced me to do what I'm going to do. You know, I've worked really hard. I've spent all this money. I've done everything right, and it hasn't succeeded. So, what choice did I have? I took up the cause of the unfortunate, so the poor people. It was not that it was not because I couldn't repay my personal debts. That's probably part of the reason why the major reason why I was doing it, to be fair. So he's saying it's not about debts, it's not about my money, it's about the people. Okay. Another reason, he says, I saw unworthy men elevated to honourable positions. So this could be a dig at Cicero. The fact that Cicero was elected over him and he was only a novus homo, while Catiline was from a really old patrician family and his father had been consul, etc. So it could be, probably is, a little bit of a dig at Cicero. I was an outcast because of baseless suspicion. So this is when the conspiracy is first kind of muted in terms of evidence. Cicero gave a speech in the Senate about it. And if you remember the front page of the previous video, there was a painting, there was like a mouse on his own and everybody left him behind. That was Catiline. So Cicero was giving this speech and like the Senate all just kind of moved away from him in the Senate. And that's why he says, you know, I've been outcasted, you've abandoned me, I haven't done anything wrong, even though he's raised an army. But hey ho. So in order to preserve what honour I have left, so it's all about dignitas, I've got no choice. Even says I'm threatened with violence. You're kind of saying you're going to launch an army against me and I've done nothing wrong. Yeah, except you raised an army, mate. Sorry, I don't like Catiline very much because I think he's a hypocrite. So then Catiline supplies army to the populace, to the populace. So he starts kind of giving out weapons, not arms. Obviously, it's a bit weird. So he's rousing the plebs to revolt. So we have plebeian support for it as well, which is very, very dangerous. As soon as this became known at Rome, the Senate pronounced Catiline and Manilius public enemies. So this is important because it basically strips them of their citizen rights. And it also votes that the consul should enlist troops, which is mentioned in the Plutarch source. And Antonius should at once pursue Catiline with an army while Cicero defended the capital. So they send out Antonius simply because he has military experience. Cicero does not. Cicero would be useless at head of an army. So it makes perfect sense. So Cicero stays behind to protect the city. Antonius goes out to pursue Catulus. Cool. So there are some decrees that are passed, sort of saying, there is this conspiracy, and you need to give up to the people. You need to stop supporting him, otherwise there's going to be problems. If you betray parts of the conspiracy, we'll give you money. But despite this, nobody betrays it. So again, it does seem to show this kind of quite widespread support for Catiline, and no one's deserting him. So again, shows the potential seriousness of this conspiracy. So the whole body of the lower orders, through desire for change, favoured the designs of Catiline, and he's riled them up. Cancel debts, you deserve land, you deserve nicer things. The rich have got all the power, it's not fair. And that's why they support him, and that's why they decide to stick with him. So again, we have some more kind of broader reasons for the conspiracy. I told you Sallust kind of jumps around a little bit. So he highlights a few other ones here as well. So squandered their possessions in riotous excesses, to spend too much. Those who disgraced a crime forced them to leave home because they've been persecuted. And had all flowed into Rome until it was a cesspool. So in other words, Rome was just dirty and gross and horrible, and people were nasty, and that's why there was a conspiracy. And they also saw that, obviously, when Sulla marched on the city, his supporters had become had become senators. So, if you support Catiline, maybe we'll get in the Senate too, and we can have, find victory source of profit and make money out of it. So that's part of the reason why they were so kind of loyal to Catiline at this particular point. We've also got the fact that some of the supporters of Catiline were those who'd lost their land under Sulla's prescriptions. So Sulla's victory had meant the prescription of parents, loss of property, curtailment of their rights. So they want to regain those. So remember I talked about when we did Sulla and the sort of the long-term effect of the prescriptions. It helps feed into this kind of disfranchisement. Never works. It's a stupid idea. And they want to regain what they've lost, understandably. So they throw their support behind him as well. Finally, all that belonged to another faction that of the Senate preferred to see the government overthrown rather than be in power of themselves. So basically, the people believe that the Senate had too much power and it should be in the hands of the people. So again, we have some more examples for the causes of the conspiracy. We then have a little bit more context again. This is why Sallust drives me at the wall. So we've got a nice quote about the Tribune Compare restored to the consulship of Pompey and Crassus. So that's just a quote from stuff we've done quite in lesson. The Therapan began. Hang on. Once the tribuneship had been restored, those people who became tribunes, so it says here, various young men. I will highlight that in a different colour, not to confuse ourselves. Go for yellow. They then began to excite people by making attacks on the Senate. So it's not Pompey and Crassus, so I'm highlighting in a different colour. It is people who became tribunes. And they also then used bribery and promises in order to attack the Senate. So the use of bribery is obviously quite dangerous. But in reality, it says it's just to maintain the provision. But the Senate was only opposing this because they wanted to ensure they kept their own position. Fine. Some maintained that they were defending the rights of the commons. That was like Catiline. Others they were upholding the prestige of the Senate. Okay, but in reality, each was working for his advancement. So that kind of summarizes why people were taking the sides that were doing. So again, Pompey's out in the east fighting Mithridates, so that's why they take the opportunity when they do. And importantly, right down here, it's really an exciting section here about what if Catiline had won, what would happen, but he didn't, so it doesn't matter. There were many outside the ranks of the conspiracy when households went to join Catiline, such as a senator's son. So we have a wide range of support for Catiline. We've got plebs, we've got the provinces, we've got the ex-soldiers, we've got proscribed people, we've got those who are in debt, and we've also got the upper classes as well, which is why, again, white could be seen as being extraordinarily dangerous. However, the conspiracy itself was dealt with quite quickly. Catiline dies in a skirmish outside of Rome. The provincial area of Etruria is put down pretty fast. The lots of the conspirators were rounded up and were arrested, as it were, and were then taken to. Then there's a debate in the Senate about what to do with them, and this is not particularly a spoiler, but then they are then executed, and the conspiracy is dealt with really quickly. The fact that Crassus had given the speech, the letters to Cicero to allow Cicero to go to the Senate, and then the Senate passed the decree that they passed, shows that we've got Senate action to deal with the situation, but also shows that the conspiracy was dealt with really, really quickly. So was it as dangerous as it could have been? It certainly has the potential to be incredibly serious, because obviously Catiline had a huge range of support, and he had an army, etc. So the potential there was really bad. What Catiline's a really good example of is someone trying to use the methods of other politicians like Sulla. So Sulla obviously had his army, marched on the city and became really powerful. And this is something that Catiline is trying to kind of like emulate, but it doesn't always work. So whenever you use Catiline in that example for methods, you're always going to have to write that Catiline did raise an army, he was planning to overthrow the government, but actually it doesn't always work, because in Catiline's case, he's then been killed in battle. So the next source video is going to be looking at some of the speeches that are given in the Senate about what to do with the conspirators that were rounded up.